Alright, hello everyone, this is Molly. I'm completely redoing this video from the other day because I realized you couldn't really hear me with the way I was talking because my wisdom teeth. But anyway, here's the requested video on how to get your horses to go around on a circle during groundwork or lunging without them ticking their nose out, and how to keep them bent properly around the circle. So I'm really passionate about this particular topic because I struggled with it for a long time. This is Johnny here. He's going to be our little demo. I've been working with him for a couple weeks and he's doing absolutely amazing on his groundwork. He had some bucking issues and had run off with a couple people. And now he's like absolutely amazing. So I'm going to demonstrate with him because he's picked up on it so well, and then maybe I'll insert a more difficult horse at the end. I'm going to pick this up because I'm bending down and it's uncomfortable. So with this in particular, I struggled with it for a long time because I was taught to bump horses' noses to get them to round up on a circle. Now, if you've done that before, you know it doesn't work for long. And what it does is it creates a brace on the horse. So you're just making them a little more frustrated and irritated, and they're bracing in their neck every time you bump them, and it really doesn't get them to maintain that arc on that circle, right? So if you want them to go around the circle, we want them to arc nicely like when we're riding them, and their nose has to go first. So if their nose is arcing nicely, then their shoulders can follow, their ribs can follow, their hip can follow on that circle, right? But if you do have their nose pointing out away from you and you're standing on the inside of that circle doing groundwork, you are number one in an unsafe position because you could get easily kicked. That's a big safety issue when I'm doing groundwork with horses, is to always keep their hips yielded away, right? And to keep their nose tilted in a little bit towards me. And then you're not setting them up to have a good arc on your riding, because now they're all braced through their ribs, they're pulling away from you, and it doesn't look pretty to begin with. So I struggled with this for a long time until I finally figured it out, and I heard some clinician somewhere say it's not about the nose, it's about the hind end. And I was like, that really doesn't make sense, right? But then I started messing around with it, and it does make sense. And so, as you guys know, I learned most of my stuff like through the School of Hard Knocks. I didn't watch a lot of video tutorials, I didn't have DVD programs. I just go and watch and take lessons from a ton of people, and then maybe at some point I'll actually have the patience to sit down and watch videos. But I like learning on the job, and I take whatever education I can get from people. So I'm going to show you with him. Hopefully you can see it well, and then ask any questions you have in the comments below. Okay? Sound good? Hopefully you can hear me over the birds and the wind. But what I'm going to start out with is he might not have a perfect shoulder yield, but I really want you guys to focus on his nose and how he stays arced around his turns. And then I'll try to jazz him up just a little bit so that he'll pull on me, and then I can demonstrate how I teach it, right? So I'll bring him out here. And I'm not going to focus on all my equipment and gear. You can ask more questions. I can do different videos on that. I'm literally just going to focus on the arcing around their groundwork. Now also too, I will say, I differentiate between lunging and groundwork. If I'm going to bring a horse out and lunge them, I'm just exercising them, letting them get energy out. They might still have some manners I want them to keep, but I'm just letting them lunge, right? When I'm doing groundwork, I'm asking very specific body control, very specific maneuvers, and it's stuff I've pieced together from all the different people I've learned from over the years. And it sets you up for success in the saddle, and also really fun to do on the ground. So I'm going to wake him up here and move him around this corner. Make sure we stay in frame. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So right here he's kind of moving up to a jog, and I'm not so worried about that right now. But notice how he stays pretty bent on this circle. I gotta keep you a little smaller, but we're in frame. So see how he stays pretty bent? So his nose is following the line that I want him to be on. His shoulder and ribs is following it. His butt's kind of swinging farther the way than I'd like, but it's okay. Now, if he goes to pull on this lead rope, see how he keeps good slack in it? It's not too tight, right? That he just stopped because I'm looking at the camera. So all I gotta do right there, he spooked a little bit, send him back out. If he goes to pull on this, I'm not going to bump him, right? I'm going to look at the hind end and disengage it. That's going to be what I do. Anytime he puts tightness in that lead rope or his nose ticks away, I'm going to disengage the hindquarters, and then I can send him right back out. See? And then say he puts tightness in it again, I can look at that and send him right back out. I can look at that hip, send him right back out. Now what this does is it keeps him hooked onto me. See, I have that eye and that ear hooked onto me, right? So anytime I look, I don't need put pressure on this lead rope. So that's not only a good start for hooking onto your horse, it sets you up for liberty control, it sets you up for all of that, right? So I can look at that hind end, he kind of yields over, right? I can switch hands if I want, I can send him the other way. Right here, I'll lift my hand, bring him up to a trot. He's keeping that eye and ear on me really well, I don't really have to do much. He's arcing around that circle kind of nicely. So maybe I'll speed him up a little bit to where he'll pull on me. Right there, I can just peek at that hind end, send him back out. Good. Notice how little I move my feet. If he was a horse that was really struggling on bending, I could get him, like maybe when I first had him too, I could get up here and really drive. See? I can really drive with my body to get him to step and yield. But I don't need to at this point. At this point, he's kind of graduated to the stage where I can just stand here and send him off. This is a more finished horse on the groundwork. He knows how to control his own body and have self-control. Right there, he's kind of looking out a little bit. All I gotta do is look at that hind end and brings his nose right back to me. So this becomes a guide rather than a correction. And I think that's important because a lot of my horses when I was first beginning would get so heavy to my hand and they'd be like doing other things, but as soon as you'd send them around in a circle, they would get super heavy. So you lighten them up with your body. So I can look at that hind end and just ask it to step over and step over, nice. And then I can get them to rock back, nice. And everything can be done on that loose rein. So forget about bumping them and building braces in there. Start building softness. Learn to use your body. Look at how little effort it takes for me, right? There might be some times when I have horses that are a little more rank, or like when I first got him, I had to be super consistent and precise with my maneuvers. But I don't ever have to get so crazy with them. I don't want to have to do my groundwork where I'm moving like this. Oh my gosh, should I spook you? Like, I shouldn't have to do that, right? The most I'll ever move in my groundwork is maybe to drive up and get a little bigger into a horse. Or if I'm going to change directions fast, I'll step out to the side, right? And get them to really move their shoulder, kind of drive up into them and get them to yield that shoulder, right? That's for another video. But that is the biggest tip I can give you. It will solve so much of your groundwork things. And practice it at Liberty first too, before you even put the halter on. Like I already had him going around the arena, hooked onto me, following me. Every time I step this way, that lead rope doesn't even get tight. He's just hooked onto me, see? I have that before I put the halter on him. I may not be perfect, it took a couple weeks to build it in him, but if I can get him to hook on, then when I actually ask him to go around in a circle, I'm not gonna be fighting with him. So I wanna set him up to where I'm not sitting there fighting them. And again, guys, I don't know everything, I'm still learning all this. This is just a tool I wish somebody taught me when I was first starting. And some of you may already know it, but once I figured that out, all of my horses got lighter and softer in their groundwork and started bending through their ribs. And then all I have to do is adjust my feet a little bit and I can get them to, move around different obstacles, send them in a figure eight around cones or whatever, because you've gotten them to use their body and you're not pulling them around with this, right? And it's also the concept of sending the horse. When you're driving from the hind end and you can get a response like that, you started to teach your horse how to send. Now you can send over obstacles, you can send on trailers, you can send into stalls, you can send them everywhere because the horse starts to hold themselves and you're not sitting there having to hold them in position. If you're sitting there having to go, okay, I want you on the circle, this used to be me, I'd be like bump, flag, or like pushing the flag or the lunge whip towards their ribs, right? To try to keep them bent around the flag. Like, you're always gonna have to do that. I would literally sit there and be bumping their nose and waving the flag at their ribs as they go around. And it's just like, no. If I teach them to say, hey, round up your body a little bit, pay attention to me, they'll do it on their own. And it makes life so much easier. So I hope that helps, guys. I hope they covered everything there. And little shout out to Johnny for being such a good sport. So I gotta go put a ride on him.